the protagonist Sung Jin-woo, receives a call from his sister Gina. She complains that he's still sleeping, even though it's already 2:13 p.m. and today is their meeting with a teacher. Consequently, Jin-woo hurries out of bed and shows up at Gina's school. And she can hardly believe that this is really her brother. In response, he asks if he looks odd. She replies that she wouldn't use that word, while Jin-woo explains that he couldn't meet with the teacher. Wearing sweatpants, it's not just Gina who notices a change in him. All the girls around can't take their eyes off him, as he attracts admiring glances wherever he goes. Seeing her brother winning hearts at school, Jenna asks if he wants her to introduce him to someone, but Jin-woo pinches her cheek and tells her to chill out. At the meeting with the teacher, she shares that Jenna is an excellent student with great grades. She sets an example for other students, and the teacher enjoys teaching her. Jin-woo has performed well in mock exams and has enough grades to enter any medical school. However, the teacher asked Jin-woo not to pressure his sister, more than necessary. Besides that, the teacher has another matter to discuss. She wants to know if Jin-woo, as the older brother, would allow his sister to become a hunter if she were to awaken. Jin-woo answers about ceremony that he would not, and the teacher had expected that response. He asks why and she admits that it's a lot to ask, but there's something she'd like him to do. Then he unexpectedly visits Han Song-yi and shows her a photo of Gina, asking if she knows this girl. Startled to discover that Jin-woo is Gina's brother, Song makes it clear that, although she doesn't know what the teacher said, she won't stop hunting to return to school. Shermu reminds her that she's ranked E and won't be able to make a living from it. Although she made some money in his team, it was an exceptional case. Song doesn't want to lecture and retorts, reminding him that he is also ranked E. However, he explains that he didn't come to ask her to stop hunting, but to invite her somewhere else. Next we go to Woo Jinchul, who is waiting at the airport for the arrival of Hwang Dong-soo. Brother of Dong-soo, Jinchul welcomes the hunter back. But Dong-soo makes it clear that this dump isn't his home. Nonetheless, he's surprised that a manager from the Hunters Association came to greet him personally. The manager asks how long he'll stay, and he answers that he needn't worry, as he doesn't like this country enough to stay long. Chin-shi wants to know if the guy came all the way here just to meet those two, but Dong-soo doesn't want the manager questioning things he already knows the answer to. Besides, it's fine if the surveillance team pretends not to know what he intends to do with those two inside a dungeon. First with rank E, then with rank D. As he radiates his strength around his body, Dong-soo asks if Jinchul is dumb enough to try to stop him. Meanwhile, Choi Jong-in informs the president of the association, Go Gun-hee, that some monsters can now fly, albeit short distances for now. Either way, the future capabilities of these monsters are unknown. Gog announces that he will arrange an investigation into the matter. When night falls, Jin-woo goes to a portal and introduces himself to manager An and Hyun. Delighted by the young man's arrival, they hadn't expected Jin-woo to get in touch again. Sony appears alongside him and he apologizes for the inconvenience, but An makes it clear that a request from Hunter Sung Jin-woo is in order, while Hyun asks if the training is for this girl. Shermu replies affirmatively. Then An explains that they've come at a good time, as this area has been designated as a high-frequency portal zone, and a rank C portal opened this morning. At that moment, a man approaches and asks if the guys will take long, reminding them that they aren't here for a stroll. Jin-woo asks who he is and An introduces him as Kim Chul, rank A tank, and that he is included in this training excursion for younger hunters as the leader of the attack team in Wei. Kim Chul grumbles to himself that he will have to take care of a bunch of rank E hunters, while An mentions that the attack team will consist of 1 rank A, 5 rank B and 2 rank C. With Jin-woo and Han Sani's arrival, there are 10 hunters in total. Jin-woo hopes the girl will back out upon seeing how brutal the raids can be. But they made an excellent lineup for the group. If they succeed too easily, it will compromise his objective. Kuan approaches and asks the protagonist to limit his participation to give space for the rookies to show their skills, and he assures that he will do so. Thus the expedition begins and the participants enter the portal. However, as soon as he steps into the dungeon, Jin-woo is struck by a strange feeling. Suddenly the portal reacts unexpectedly, so he grabs Hong-yi and tries to pull her out. As he struggles with only his head outside, he asks manager An to bring the main attack team as quickly as possible. Having said that, he is pulled back in without delay. Bakuno receives a call, and can't believe that a rank C portal has turned red. Nonetheless, he is heading there right now. Inside the portal, Jin-woo opens his eyes and finds himself in the middle of a forest. Surrounded by snow, everyone wonders where they have ended up. While Kim Chul explains that this is a red portal, Song asks Jin-woo what this means. And he explains that unlike common portals, when you pass through a red portal, you are taken to a dungeon isolated from the outside world. Until the boss is defeated or a dungeon break occurs, there's no way out and no one from outside can help. Moreover, the monsters are stronger in such situations. With that said, an ice arrow hits directly in the face of a hunter, who falls to the ground lifeless. Another arrow is shot towards Songye, but Jinwoo manages to catch it in the air and saves her life. Around them, ice elves were positioned in the trees. Jinwoo notes that the elves targeted the two weakest members of the group. When the elves leave, Song asks what those creatures were, and his friend explains that they are ice elves. However, due to their malevolent nature, the hunters refer to them by a name more fitting for demons: Ice Slayers. At that moment, Kim Kul captures everyone's attention and warns that they will face enemies ranked B or higher, and without any support for this reason. The survival of each hunter present depends on following the highest rank comrade's orders. Having said that, Kim admits that even he cannot defeat these monsters alone, so he decides to form a second group to increase their chances of survival. However, instead of forming balanced teams, the A-rank hunter forms a clique, selecting the best members for himself, and leaving those ranked C and below in the other team. According to him, for every day they spend inside the red portal, only an hour passes outside. Meaning whether they are there to kill the boss or for a dungeon break, the survivors can only leave after many months, too long to be burdened with dead weight. Yet despite the fearful expressions of the weaker hunters, Kim Chul doesn't want them to feel this way. After all, they just survive until the boss is defeated. Everyone will safely return home. At the end of his speech, a girl volunteers to join the weaker group, and the leader grants permission, though he thinks her foolish for pitying them. Approaching Jinwoo, the woman points out that Kim he even noticed the arrows arriving, unlike Jinwoo, who certainly isn't ranky as he claims. Finally, Kim Chul announces that you will follow the cleared path. So Jinwoo decides to take the route into the forest. Along the way, Kim shows his teammates the claw marks of an ice bear on a tree, admitting they are practically sacrificing the E-rank group. A member highlights that they probably haven't even had training, and that it's terrible luck to come on a raid just to be killed. Hearing this, Kim remembers that the other team has a C rank and Park Hee-jin, who is B rank nonetheless. He just assumed that the E rank guy was the leader. Amidst this, everyone hears the sound of a bear and prepares for battle. Soon after, the gigantic creature appears, leaving everyone stunned by its size, except for Kim Chul, who orders everyone to focus on surviving. In response, the bear attacks the team leader, who raises his shield and causes the animal's claws to break in half. With his axe, Kim does the same, but this time with the entire body of the wild ice beast. However, two more bears nearby attack the group. Meanwhile, on the other team, Hee-jin asks her colleagues to stop, because the tree markings indicate this territory belongs to the ice bears, and they should return before the animals appear. However, Jinwoo explains that this is precisely why he chose this path. If the territory belongs to the bears, they only need to worry about these animals, which is better than facing intelligent enemies like the elves. Changing the subject, the team leader takes a coat out of his inventory for each member and stares into the forest. Anxious, Songni asks what he's seeing, to which he promises to keep her safe, as he was the one who brought her along, but asks the girl not to ask questions. He extends this request to the other two team members, asking them not to question or request anything from him. At that moment, an ice bear encounters the humans. For this reason, Jinwoo changes his title to Wolf Slayer. Meanwhile, outside the portal, Bick concludes that there's no way to open this thing, and everything depends on Hunter Kim. On reports that Jinwoo is accompanying the attack team, but when Bark asks about the level of this hunter, the manager lowers his head and reveals that he is rank E. But there is suspicion that this guy has gone through his second awakening. In the meantime, Dongsu arrives and notes that if the big shots of the White Tiger Guild are there must be an A-rank portal at stake. Now what he doesn't understand is why a rank trash entered this portal, which belongs to the White Tiger. Regrettably, it seems that Jinwoo got involved in this mess just when Dongsu was after him. At least according to Dong to himself, Jinwoo has likely become monster fodder inside. Speaking of which, the protagonist has just eliminated the last bear among the several that attacked his group. With this, he levels up and celebrates the fact that this red portal gives much more XP than usual. Startled, Hee-jin asks who this guy is. At night, they eat the meat of the bears they killed. Amidst a conversation by the campfire, Sonya finds it bizarre that Jinwoo goes to exercise even after fighting that way. Far away, Jinwoo goes to the bear's den and summons Commander Knight Igris, the Blood Red, along with his subordinate warriors. The bears lead the den to defend their home and engage in a bloody battle against the specters. Observing this army in action for the first time, Jinwoo notes that the artillery has high firepower and the infantry regenerates quickly, but consumes a lot of mana. At this point, the leader of the bears shows up and eliminates all the shadow soldiers that were summoned, using Jinwoo mana points to 0. Consequently, he orders Igris to advance. As the Blood Red takes a few steps forward, the bear charges at the knight with all its might. However, Igris dodges the blow and even tears off part of the enemy's shoulder. leaving it even more furious. Nevertheless, the dark specter is extremely fast and strikes the bear several times, bringing it to its knees and all bloodied still. The beast tries to use one last move, forcing the knight to cut its head off and end the fight. Meanwhile on the other team, an arrow hits another companion of Kim Chul. Even facing the ice elves and at a great disadvantage, he declares that he will join the elite of the White Tiger Guild. However, when he sees an elf up close ending the life of a companion, the man runs desperately. Thank you for watching. Subscribe to get notifications for the next anime recap.